Come, come, whoever you are, whether you're wandering in the back of the sanctuary or you're already in your seat, let's settle in and prepare ourselves for our worship service today. And you might even think about silencing your cell phone. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you're from, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you're welcome here. Welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or watching at home, whether you're here with us for the very first time or for the 1000th, we're glad you're here. My name is Molly Hornbuckle. It's my honor to be your lay leader this morning. I believe that Bill and I may be among the longest tenured members in the room right now through the COVID shutdown and all of its difficult repercussions. But we value this place, and especially the people who are here. For me, good church, which I think we are, seems impossible to do alone and too important to not do together. San Gabriel is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are a movement working for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Sustaining each other here in community is one part of that work. Join me in reciting the words as I light our chalice. We light this flame to remind us Join me in reciting the words of our chalice. We light this flame to remind us love is the center. As we grow and connect, mature and deepen, love remains the center. When the light of truth burns all else away, love remains.
Good morning. I'm AJ Juraska. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm honored to serve as your guest worship leader this morning. I'm a UU student in seminary at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary, where I am entering my second of 3 years. I'm a member of the Texas UU Justice Ministry Speakers Guild and have been active with the Justice Ministry in actions at the Capitol and more. I live in Austin with my husband and 2 beloved rambunctious dogs. Let us greet this day in song. Our opening hymn is How Could Anyone, number 1053 in the Teal hymnal. The lyrics will be projected. Please rise in body or spirit as you are able. Sometimes we are carrying something on our heart that can prevent us from being fully present. Here in this community, our sharing of these things with each other is medicine, is healing. Like all good medicine, it must be concentrated and potent. Aim at 2 strong sentences. So, if you are carrying a sorrow on your heart right now, I invite you to share. In this time, while one of us is practicing vulnerability and grief, the rest of us are practicing the gifts of presence and deep listening, empathy medicine. Now let us share any sorrows.
I'm Bill. Yesterday I said goodbye to one of my best friends ever. John Paul Carter was memorialized at Central Christian Church in Weatherford, Texas. And I described myself as his soul brother because we had been really good friends for half a century. But what I found out, and I knew all along, John Paul had lots of soul brothers and soul sisters as well. He used to refer to Molly as his sister. But it was a wonderful celebration, and the church up there did such a marvelous job in helping that family to grieve and yet to celebrate. And I thought about our fellowship, our family here, and I wondered how in the world people get through these tough times without a church family. So I'm grateful for that church family, but also for this one.
Hi, I'm Joe. We attended the funeral of Larry Anderson yesterday. He was a member of this church, and his illnesses had kept him from attending services very often because he was very susceptible to infection. But he was a very good member of the church, and I'm going to miss him.
Thank you for sharing. And for any sorrows that remain unspoken, the loving empathy of this community is with you in your grief. Now it's time to flip the coin of love over from the side of sorrow to the side of joy. In this time, while one of us is practicing praise, the rest of us are practicing the gifts of presence and deep listening, Freudenfreud medicine. Does anyone have any joys to share?
Hi and good morning. I'm Natalia. One of my joys, and I think it would be a sorrow and a joy. My niece was in an accident. Our niece was in an accident, and she's like a toddler, and a drowning accident, and she survived, and they came home yesterday. And so the joy of being able to welcome her spirit, and this new next step for our family to come together and just heal. That's a joy.
Hi, I don't know if anyone recalls my older son, Bruce, but he's been gone for the month of July with his dad, and he went a little early because there was a family funeral, and he stayed a little late because they were doing a car repair, but I'm picking him up this afternoon. Yay!
Welcome home.
Hi, I'm Chuck Collins. I just got back from a vacation in Denver, short trip to Denver. I got to meet my great niece, Lele. She's 3 years old. She was born with some issues. So she's deaf. She can't walk yet. She's developmentally delayed, but she's just the most beautiful little girl I've ever seen. And so I'm just really happy and grateful to finally get to meet her in person.
I have a joy to share from Hush. Yesterday, August 3rd, was an unofficial holiday known as Esther Day, celebrated in an online community called Nerdfighteria, a community of nerds that raise money for all sorts of causes. Esther Day was her birthday. She would have been 30 now. Before she passed in 2010, she wished for a holiday about love, especially the platonic, non-romantic love that doesn't often get included in conversation. It is custom to tell everyone you love them in honor of Esther, especially friends you might not say it to that often. In honor of Esther Day, Hush wants to express her love for this community. It's given me an outlet, their love, for this community. It's given me an outlet to be myself and be safe. I'm very grateful for that. I love y'all. Happy Esther Day. I'm sorry you don't get doubles.
I'm new here. I've never been here before. There was a guy here previously that talked all the time, that looked like me. I just wanted to say a word of joy for the Sanders family. Frank told me yesterday that Paula is at home after a long hospitalization. And Paula, if you're watching out there, we're delighted for you and hope for the best for you in your convalescing. Glad to welcome you back to home.
Thank you for your sharing, and for all the joys that remain unspoken, we join you in thanks and praise. So now it's time for our Wonder Box. Can someone bring forth the Wonder Box? Thank you. I hope you took the opportunity to investigate it back there at the Wonder Table this morning. So there's an object in the Wonder Box, and that's one clue. Thank you so much. Let's see if it makes a noise. Yeah, it makes a little noise. Sounds small, hard. The guess, there's also a written clue, and this week's Wonder Box clue is neither he nor she. And the game is to guess the word that these clues are pointing at. So if you're not curious, just remember you're just refusing to play. So any guesses about what might be in this box? Or what the word might be? Them. That's a great guess. Very close. Yes, what's your guess? Non-binary. That you got it. You got it. Excellent. So today's Wonder Box word was non-binary, and I'll open up the box and show you what the thing was. Oh, it was on the black side, and the inside of the box is black, so I couldn't see it. But it is a they-them pin, so for those who guess they-them, you're very close. But the word is non-binary, and so some kids and people are boys and some are girls, and some kids don't identify as either girls or boys, but instead identify as non-binary. So today we're talking about things that are not one or the other thing, but instead are beautifully complex, much like being non-binary. So we're going to now have a Wonder Box story that's going to be projected on our screen.
This book is called Who Are You? The Kid's Guide to Gender Identity. Written by Brooke Pessin Whitby and illustrated by Naomi Bardoff. This is a story about you. The important thing to remember is that you are the one who knows you the best. When babies are born, people ask, Is it a boy or a girl? Babies can't talk, so grown-ups make a guess by looking at their bodies. This is the sex assigned to you at birth, male or female. Sometimes people get this confused with gender, but gender is much more than the body we are born with. As babies grow into kids, they start to know what they like and don't like. This is your personal expression. What you like, how you dress, and how you act. There are so many ways to express yourself. What you like can even change as you grow up, or even from day to day. What do you like? Do you see anything here? Maybe there are some things you like in this picture. Kids know a lot about themselves. They know who they are by how they feel inside. This is your identity, who you feel like inside, who you know yourself to be. This can also change as you grow up or change from day to day. Your gender is just one part of your identity, one part of what makes you, you. Some people may say there are only two genders, but there are really many genders. You may say that I am a girl, or I am a boy, I am both, I am neither, maybe I am just me. You are who you say you are because you know you best. For some people, the grown-ups guessed right about their body and their gender. This is called cisgender, when someone's identity matches their sex assigned at birth. For some people, there are more than just two choices. These are just a few words people use. Trans, genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid, transgender, gender neutral, agender, neutrois, bigender, third gender, two-spirit, and there are even more words that people are using to describe their experience. This is called the gender spectrum. There are lots of ways to be a boy. There are lots of ways to be a girl. There are lots of ways to be a kid. Be who you are. Because you know you best.
Let's sing another song together, shall we? This one is called We Are a Gentle, Angry People. If you like to use the hymnal, it's page 170, but I'll give you a clue. We're going to skip the first verse, do verses 2, 3, and 4, and then on the final verse, we're going to sing a replacement stanza that was created by Holly Neer, who is the person who actually composed this song. And she feels like this is more inclusive of all gender identities and sexual orientations, and that is, we are all in this together. If you're looking up there, you don't have to remember anything I just said. Felt good. I invite you now into a place of deeper stillness and reflection. Our reading is from Aluk Vedmenin, who uses they, them pronouns, and is an internationally acclaimed poet, comedian, and actor. Please listen. I could come up here and give a keynote about how my community, a small, invisible minority of people, are being targeted. I could request for support and care from a presumed majority of straight and cisgender people. But I'm not interested in speaking about these laws as targeting a minority. I actually want you to know they are targeting you too. These anti-drag laws, which are descendants of the cross-dressing laws, impact all of us. Transphobia has never been just targeting trans people. It targets anyone who is presumed to be disobeying society's idea of what a man or woman should look like. It feels very surreal to have to only speak about this as a minority issue, when essentially what these extremists are trying to do is deny freedom and self-authorship to all people.
Who am I? That's a big question, a big spiritual question. We often answer it with our name. I am AJ. But even answering with a name can be fraught for those of us who are non-binary and trans. It recalls Shakespeare's question in Romeo and Juliet, what's in a name? A name identifies someone as an individual, but does not really tell us who they are. Perhaps the better question is, what am I? Yet even I is inherently dualistic. There's an idea that there is an I that separates you from me, as opposed to the idea of non-dualism, that all is one. In Neil Thies's book, Notes on Complexity, he points out how the more we zoom in, the more science confirms that what we think of as I quickly falls apart. We are constantly shedding cells. Does that mean every doorknob we touch contains a bit of me on it? We also share our body with a complex microbiome of other organisms. In a podcast with Mayim Bialik, Neil Thies points out that recent studies have indicated that 50% of our body is made up of these other organisms. Thies further points out that the molecules that make up our body come from Earth. So are we Earth itself, he asks? The physics concept of complementarity would suggest that we could be both Earth and human, both made of individual cells and a human being. Complementarity gives us the option of both and instead of either or. Even before the recent Article 2 vote at the UU General Assembly ushered in values such as interdependence, the seventh UU principle spoke to the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. So UUs have long acknowledged that we are a part of a greater whole, one on which we depend for survival. Yet still we think of ourselves as a we, inevitably trending back to the self-reflexive perspective that we as individuals exist apart from and not a part of. I don't think that being non-binary makes me inherently better at seeing our connections, but it doesn't hurt. I've already figured out that one system that attempts to categorize us into boxes isn't right for me, so it's not much of a stretch to start questioning all systems. Thies talks about the tension between stability and chaos, that the two, quote, tug at life from either side. Perhaps it is this fear of chaos that has some feeling scared that bringing more complexity to things like gender will inevitably lead to bigger problems. Yet complexity is where creativity and innovation thrive. Without complexity, with only the status quo, we miss out on much of the beauty in the world, from great works of art to ingenious new inventions that improve our lives. Let me take a step back and clarify something, however. Complexity is not the same as chaos. I didn't find myself fitting into the gender binary, but some of my trans friends would be among the first to protest if we were to try to abolish the system of gender entirely. They like their masculinity and femininity and want to keep it. However, they will also be the first ones to protect the idea that 2 is not a magic number. As Alok Vedmenon says, there are as many ways to be non-binary as there are people on this planet. But we can step out of the binary and see a beautiful spectrum that we can all be on. Allowing for more nuances of colors in the rainbow doesn't make the rainbow any less special or less meaningful. At the same time, stability has its place. If we lean too far into either stability or chaos, the tug of war between the two resolves, and according to Thies, quote, "The self-sustaining adaptive creativity of the system is lost, and it will undergo a partial or complete mass extinction event." This extinction event is inevitable, but it isn't as dire as it may sound. Could the death of patriarchy give rise to a new, improved system of human self-governance, much like the Black Death gave rise to the Renaissance? Might we learn to operate as a holarchy, which is a concept that Thies explains contrasts with hierarchy? According to Thies, quote, "A holarchy is a system of elements that do not relate to each other in terms of higher or lower, top or bottom, left to right, or right to left." When we view things as both and, with nothing being better than the other, we're talking about a holarchy. Living in a patriarchal society, we have been set up such that men have more privilege over women. And we also live in a society that preferences whiteness, which leads us to get messages that people with less melanin in their skin have more privilege than those who have more. However, all of these categories exist in the same world where intellectually we can know that women have no greater or lower value than men, and skin color should not matter in our assessment of character. We can hold these truths at the same time, both the status quo and the vision of the world as we wish it to be. That is complementarity and holarchy. So why is it so hard to take in that there are more than 2 genders, especially when, as Vedmenon points out, our salvation is tied together? Why is it so hard to use they/them pronouns for people like me? I don't have all the answers to those questions, but I do have hope that things will change over time. The 4 rules of complexity theory give me hope when it comes to non-binary and trans identities gaining more acceptance and inclusion in our society. The first rule of complexity theory is that numbers matter. This first rule is basically the law of critical mass. If there aren't enough numbers, the complex system doesn't exist. How we think of ourselves matters in this regard. As Vedmenon said in our reading, are we just counting the minority of those of us who identify outside of the gender binary? Or do we include all those who feel oppressed by the cis-heteropatriarchy, which says we must live our lives a certain way? When I went with Texas UU Justice Ministries, also known as Texas UJM, to the Capitol to speak out against a bill to ban gender-affirming care for children, I went not because I myself was going to be directly affected if it were passed, but because I knew that indirectly it was an attack on my identity as well. We have greater numbers if we include more of us in the assessment of who is impacted. The numbers matter rule gives me hope because more of us are understanding how these attacks on gender-affirming care affect all of us. The second rule of complexity theory is that interactions are local, not global. We often think that because our political systems are set up as a hierarchy, they accomplish things from the top down. But that isn't always the case. At the end of the day, elected officials are still beholden to their local districts, and hearing from them matters. This is something that Texas UJM works on by bringing together people from all different parts of the state, including Williamson County. This past session, when Texas UJM had a legislative action day, I met with staff for the state representative for Georgetown and said that I knew people in their district who cared about these issues, but it is even more powerful when they hear from their constituents directly. Similarly, movements to shift thinking around issues like abortion, gay rights, trans liberation, etc., all start locally. The country has shifted its position on gay rights not just because people started seeing people like Ellen come out on TV, though that helped, but because their beloved friends and family members started coming out. We may think talking to loved ones makes no difference, but it can if we get curious and if we embrace each other's curiosity. And just a caveat, I don't think anyone needs to come out, but it did help in the movement when people were more visible. For example, when someone says something homophobic or transphobic, rather than calling them out and using words that attack them as an individual, like calling them a homophobe, we can call people in and we can call on. I know Eric talked about calling in a little bit last week. Calling in means we can kindly explain why we have a different experience. For example, we can say, I have several friends who are gay and I've never had the experience that you're talking about. Can you tell me more why you say that? Pulling people aside and talking to them one-on-one rather than having these conversations in a group can also be helpful. It can also help to be more open about our own experiences. People are more likely to support abortion if they have spoken to someone who's had an abortion, for example. Another option is calling on. This is a concept shared in a TED Talk by Sonia Renee Taylor, which suggests that we can also pull people aside and let them know that what they have said hurt, but we don't owe them the full explanation. Rather, as Reverend Kim Kendrick said in an OWL webinar, Google will bless your life. Especially if you are directly impacted by these issues, you don't always have to be the one to explain them to others. You can guide people to learn more on their own. So the numbers matter rule plus the local, not global rule of complexity theory suggests that if enough of us are acting locally, it makes a difference. One reason why I love being UU is because of the ways that we join together to affect local change, much like I see this congregation doing with things like trying to remove the Confederate statue outside the Williamson County Courthouse. The third rule of complexity is perhaps the most explanatory when it comes to why we stick to the status quo. It's the idea that negative feedback loops prevail. A negative feedback loop is one that is in place to maintain homeostasis. As Thies says, quote, in homeostasis, the system sustains the capacity for adaptation to the changing world around it, preventing any one member of the system from overwhelming others. That's a big quote, so let me say that again. In homeostasis, the system sustains the capacity for adaptation to the changing world around it, preventing any one member of the system from overwhelming others. In other words, the system is set up to make sure that no one thing in the system overpowers the other things in that system. This can be a very good thing. It's essentially a balance of power, much like our branches of government were set up in theory to balance each other out. I know I run into these negative feedback loops all the time. My pronouns are they, them, and I use the wrong pronouns for myself. And my husband very thoughtfully said, well, you've lived with those pronouns for much longer than anyone else, so of course you struggle with that. So know that if you ever use a wrong pronoun and you correct yourself, I've done it to myself. There is a lot of change happening in the world right now. This includes the climate crisis, bodily autonomy, immigration, you name it. All these different issues are bombarding the status quo at once, and it is resisting that change. However, just as all of us are beholden to that status quo at times, like I am when I use the wrong pronouns for myself, every single one of us has the capability to do something different. For example, when it comes to getting more comfortable with gender diversity, try practicing using they, them pronouns on your own. You can do it while folding laundry, making dinner, or driving your car. Just make up silly sentences like, my friend AJ was driving their car the other day. They were going to the park, and when they got there, they met a cool person. The cool person gave them a flower, and they took their new flower and went back home, and so on. So in other words, balance prevails in the system, but we can still introduce change to the system, especially if the first two rules of complexity, numbers mattering and acting locally, are in play. Part of what helps change the system is Rule 4 of complexity theory. The fourth rule says that the degree of randomness is key. There are always a small number of participants in the system that do something unexpected. Drag is a great example of this. Drag is pushing the boundaries of expectations for what clothing a person can and should wear. Drag is not just about wearing the clothes of someone of the opposite gender. It's about playing with the idea of gender and who can do what. There are all sorts of drag because of this play. Having this kind of creativity in the world gives rise to new ideas and innovations. For example, seeing people explore what authenticity means in the drag world can help us explore what authenticity means in our own world. We often think that authenticity is the antithesis of the unexpected. However, when I was discussing this sermon with your pulpiteer, Eric, he posed the question, what if authenticity is the proper source of the unexpected in human cultures? What if we are our true, authentic selves, we bring beauty to the world that may show up as random, but in fact is exactly what the world needs? This takes us back to where I started. The question, who am I, can easily sound like we're talking about a list of things, like I am a human, I am non-binary, I'm a dog parent, I'm a pickleball player, I'm an INFJ on the Myers-Briggs and a 4 on the Enneagram. However, these ways of understanding who I am are what is called self-reflexive consciousness. They are us reflecting on ourselves, where we are the subject and there's a dualism at play because we are defining ourselves as separate from others. There's a concept in many religions, including Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and more, of objectless awareness. Objectless awareness is where we shift our consciousness out of seeing ourselves as a self. As Cynthia Bourgeault puts it, if we perceive that it's all one, it's because we are perceiving from oneness. We can see the whole system at once. I believe that being non-binary is challenging us all to see the whole system, not just the binary patriarchal system that we are being given, but a divine whole. I wish I had words to describe how beautiful this vision of the world is, one in which we are all one. This idea that all is one is the concept of non-dualism. The first time I really experienced non-dualism, a sense of non-dualism, was during a meditation that a friend, John Scott, led during a UU small group known as Wellspring. I will lead us through that meditation in a moment. For me, it was powerful to realize how connected I was to the broader universe. During the meditation, I remember thinking something I had heard before, which is that our atoms are not all inside what we think of as our body. So the atoms that make up our body are, in many ways, not ours. How beautiful is that? We are truly part of an independent web, and practices like meditation and centering prayer from Father Thomas Keating can help us see just how connected we are. In those rare moments when I notice my mind at work and can briefly bring myself back to center, at the center is a deep sense of connectedness, which for many, including me, is an experience of the divine. All of this is difficult to understand in words because it is so far from what we experience in our everyday lives. Our gender roles are normally rigid. We think of our bodies as discrete objects, and our minds stay self-reflexive. Instead of trying to end this sermon with words, I invite you to join me in an experience, courtesy of John, a Yoga Nidra meditation practice. So I invite you to settle into your chair and come into this moment. Become present to sensations, the feeling of the body resting upon the surface that supports it, sounds, the sensation of light, the touch of air on the skin. Bring to mind your intention for this practice, perhaps to be open to experiencing this form of meditation. Your intention for this practice may be a part of a larger intention for your life, maybe a heartfelt yearning for spiritual practice or inquiry. And take a moment to welcome what we might call an inner resource of well-being and ease, a deep knowing that you're on your own side, that you're safe with yourself. Bring your attention to the body and to the sensation of the jaw, mouth, ears, eyes, forehead and scalp, shoulders, arms, the sensation of your palms and fingers, the sensation of your entire torso, hips, legs, and feet. The sensation of your entire body and your body as a radiant field of sensation. Feel yourself as the observer of all these sensations that are present within your awareness. Affirming to yourself, I am aware, I am at ease, I am safe and secure with myself. Become aware of the body breathing itself. Notice the movement of the belly as you breathe and the feeling of the air in your nostrils. Without trying to change or fix anything, just notice any emotions or thoughts that may be present. If something is present, can you allow it to be here, perhaps even welcome it, with a sense of openness, kindness, and genuine curiosity? How and where do you feel it in the body as pure energy or sensation? Affirm your inner resource, a felt sense of well-being and ease, a sense that I am safe and secure with myself. Now notice yourself as the observer of everything that arises, sensations, breath, emotions, thoughts, images. Take a moment to experience yourself as observer. And then let the edges of this observer soften into observing. Let observing soften even further into pure being, just being. Notice how there may be a feeling of deep peace or equanimity, or the joy of being alive that just naturally bubbles up from the ground of being. Feel back into the spacious awareness in which all of this arises. Let the skin soften. Feel how the space inside your body and the space outside your body is the same continuous, undivided space. An ocean of spacious awareness that gives rise to the worlds of form. And feel yourself as a unique expression of this mystery. You might recall your intention for this practice and your larger intention for your life. Welcome the felt sense of well-being and ease, perhaps with the intention to carry this with you into the rest of the day. As you feel ready, you might begin to let your personality come back online. Wiggle your fingers and toes, open and close your eyes. As you come back into this space, may you take this sermon and Yoga Nidra as an invitation into your own authentic self, and even deeper into the broader whole of which we are all a part. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ, for the words of challenge and the invitation to authenticity. Appreciate it. We take an offering each week to sustain this spiritual home and to support the work of our fellowship. If you're visiting, we invite you to fill out a visitor card and either put it in the basket as it passes by or drop it off at the welcome table in the back. For offertory music, we have God Will Take Care of You, performed by Gene Olson. The offering will now be gratefully received, and we thank you.
Sometimes we are called to add our voice to the chorus. Sometimes we are called to speak aloud the message resonating in our hearts. Our words are medicine. Please keep the medicine potent and leave space for all. Aim at 2 strong sentences. If you are experiencing a call to reflect, respond, or resonate with today's message, please raise your hand for the microphone.
I have 2 kids who are non-binary. They're 17 and 22, and they are like, to me, they've taught me so much about what it means to be human, and I just wanted to share that to say that I'm super, super proud of these people. They're awesome people, and I wish I knew what they know now when I was their age. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I totally agree. I feel like I'm learning so much from people who are younger than me, so. I didn't even know one could be non-binary until the last 5-10 years, so it turns out I am non-binary, so. Anyone else? Thank you. If you are called to share an announcement with your siblings, now is the time. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Now is the time. any announcements? All right. Finally, if you have a gratitude to share, please do so now.
Hush says, I love you. I was supposed to do it during the gratitudes. Sorry, Hush. I did it during the joys. Yeah, spread love.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, yes.
I would like to express my gratitude for the wonderful piano playing of Gene Olson.
You need to notice her earrings.
All right. Thank you all, and amen. For all this and more, we are deeply grateful.
As we prepare to return to the world, we remind ourselves through our affirmation to carry our work from this place to every corner of our lives. Join me in the call and response. The doctrine of this church is love. We are here to love. The quest of truth is its sacrament. We are here to learn. Service is its prayer. We are here to care for others. To dwell together in peace. We are here to live in peace. To seek knowledge and freedom. We are here to honor our differences. To serve humanity in fellowship. To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. We are here to grow. Thus do we covenant with one another. This we promise to do together. Let us recite these words as I extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame to remind us love is the center. As we explore and rest, engage and heal, love remains the center. When all we can see is cold ashes, love remains.
May you find the divine whole in your beautifully complex, authentic self. Go in peace, and blessed be.